it's been said, and I firmly agree with this, that COVID-19 has probably been the greatest disruptor of all time. We've also touched on this, that it's been the greatest accelerator for digital transformation amongst a huge amount of companies. You know, the phrase I keep repeating was said to me by Kevin Starr, ABB, when I was doing one of my streams in America. You know, he said our 5-year plan, digital transformation plan, got condensed to 5 weeks. And whilst that might be slightly hyperbolic, I don't think it's far off. You know, it really, I've seen that conversation over and over again. I saw Kuhn and Bauer, I did an in-depth interview with them around this as well. Let's go through the quotes really briefly. So Jed says, one of the things that we realized 4 or 5 years ago was the machines are getting more reliable, plus we had an aging workforce. I walked into the room and told everybody I wanted to run the service department with no engineers. My management team looked at me as if I had gone mad. I said to them, if we achieve this, everybody in the world will look at what we're doing. So we started to look at what tools were available and what we could do. Rajat said, in terms of remote services being the new default, I think if you look into the majority of service contracts that were in existence, that they were already offering such services. So this isn't necessarily new in terms of remote services. I think the markets need to move a little bit faster in adapting to some of the tools we have. If you launch an engineer, it's quite expensive. If you can reduce that cost by utilizing remote support, then from the OEM standpoint, we should start thinking about self-healing a lot more. And self-healing was a really interesting discussion that was held in the group, and maybe we'll touch on that momentarily. Well, Daniel, let me put this to you. Is it the greatest disruptor that we've ever seen, COVID-19? And ultimately, whenever a market's disrupted, we do eventually, when the dust settles, we see things moving in a more positive light. And again, I'm putting that positive lens on this. I mean, what's your thoughts? Was it the greatest disruptor that we've ever known?
Absolutely, I think so. And you mentioned something earlier that made me recall a meme that I've seen that I think probably most of us have seen at some point during the multitude that I'm sure we've all received during COVID-19. But it was basically, you know, it's had a picture and it said, what's been the key force driving the digital transformation within your organization? Is it your products, your customers, or COVID-19? And so COVID-19 has been that thing that's really driven a lot of organizations towards some of that digital transformation. And I think, you know, some of the things that a lot of organizations are thinking about, and you know, from Rajat and Alec and others that were, and Jed, that were on the call that I was a part of, talking about some of the future state and the like. We really can break it down into kind of 3 buckets, right? You've got the short term where you're keeping the business going, you know, looking at your current field procedures to determine which steps can be reworked or bypassed, locating your critical parts. And then near term, you're looking at things around workforce models for capacity needed when lockdowns are raised, identifying which workers can be brought back in, evaluating your cash, so you can look at the impact of pent-up demand or deferred demand for installations and PM visits. And then in the long term, you really want to start assessing and reevaluating how you're going to approach your whole structure of service moving forward. As Jed said, he wants to run the service department with no engineers, and I think that's, you know, obviously that's so far out of reality for so many people to even consider, which is why they looked at him like he was mad. But, you know, structuring the way and getting more remote support, doing more self-healing, having more connected devices and products, and enabling your customers more is going to be the way of the future. So I think that COVID is really helping to accelerate all of that.